Hi there and welcome. My name is Megan, and I am just wrapping up my master's degree in early childhood education. I wanted to go ahead and share this presentation on the different sensory systems for all of you educators out there. Whether you're a brand new teacher at a daycare, a veteran elementary school teacher, a home visitor, a homeschool parent, or really anyone else who is interested in advocating for children's needs, I hope that you're able to take something from today's presentation. So, we'll start off with a question. Did you know that our sensory systems are not just limited to the famous smell, sight, taste, touch, and sound? There are actually a very important three secret sensory systems that we will talk about today called interoception, proprioception, and the vestibular senses. So, you might be kind of wondering why it's so important because it seems like pretty basic stuff, right? I couldn't disagree more. I feel very passionately about the sensory systems and our understanding of them because they are our body's way of working with our brains to learn new things about the world around us. And how can we grow and develop if we don't have these systems to help us sense and perceive? All eight of the sensory systems work together to help children develop in each domain. So, gross and fine motor, language, cognition, social, emotional, all that good stuff. I decided to start off strong with our olfactory system because evolutionarily, smell is our most ancient sense. As you might know, a lot of smell is linked to what we taste. It also helps us to know what might be dangerous. But aside from these evolutionary functions, smell is also a powerful tool to sharpen memory and self regulation skills. So, how can we support this in our students as educators? One activity that I really love is gathering old used up spice jars and adding that to the dramatic play, so like the kitchen area of the classroom. Another good one is making Play-Doh with the class and adding some essential oils to add that olfactory element to an already really great sensory activity. And if you have the ability, taking the students to a botanical garden or even just growing some herbs as a class is an excellent way to enhance children's senses of smell. Feels natural to next move into the gustatory sense after talking about the influence of olfactory on our ability to taste. Now, when we think about our sense of taste, naturally we think about food. As many of us have seen, even young babies have food preferences. We may notice a child having a strong distaste for squash, for example, but a near obsession with pasta. Ultimately, what we are fed routinely as children can have a significant effect on our health and development. That's why it's important to foster a healthy gustatory development. So, a couple of good examples of what this might look like in our classrooms or learning environments is doing a baking activity together. So, allowing our students to have an active role in creating the food that we are going to eat can be a really empowering experience. If teachers are asked for advice by parents about trying new foods, they could encourage parents to make it fun by doing like a taste test game, making it silly and fun. Adding in books during circle time or even during those meal times can be helpful as well. And if teachers are struggling with young children throwing food on the floor, they could offer a no thank you plate just next to their plate of food so that children feel they have a bit more autonomy. And overall, it's important to remember that children take a while to decide how they feel about a food. So don't give up on trying it with them if they've only rejected it once or twice. Moving on to vision, which happens to be the sense that we know the most about. So, newer technology allows us to understand more about the eye and how it relays information to the brain. When babies are first born, their eyesight is relatively poor, but their vision and focus becomes clearer and stronger by the month. Part of the reason that we know so much about vision is that it is our primary highway of information to the brain. So, then how can we support the development of this crucial sensory system for our young learners? I really like to use flashlights to do light play. It's a great visual system activity for many ages. I also think getting creative and making a variety of sensory bottles is a great way to help children develop their visual system. Adding things like glitter or oil give children something to focus on and track. The same goes for water play. So, watching the cause and effect of splashing and making waves is appropriately stimulating. Anything related to color is an excellent idea. Showing children color mixing with food dye, doing art activities with different color paints, or reading books about different colors are all really great options. The last example coming to mind for me is specific to babies who need a bit more of that high contrast visual input. They make so many awesome high contrast board books or even high contrast cards that are a great thing to bring out during tummy time. Next, moving on to our sense of touch. So much of young children's development relies on tactile input. If we think about concepts such as attachment theory, we know that children are able to form healthy and secure attachments by being physically close to their safe adult. Appropriate tactile input can also help facilitate a child's developing sense of spatial awareness. It can help them to regulate their emotions, and it literally builds their brain neuron by neuron. A very obvious way to support this is by being a safe person to come get a hug from. For infant teachers, this looks like rocking a baby to sleep or holding a baby close contact for a bottle feed. For older children, some great tactile activities include playing with sand or Play Doh, doing a really engaging sensory bin, or getting messy and doing some finger painting. It is important to note that some children will be more sensory seeking, while others will be more avoidant, and that's totally okay. So, as you might imagine, our ability to hear early in our lives is a major contributor to language learning. The early childhood age has been shown to be a sensitive period for this type of brain development, which is why it's so important to talk, sing, and read to young children. The more that they hear, the more that they contextualize and understand. Music time with songs and instruments is a perfect example of how to enhance auditory development. Story time, especially about concepts that the children are interested in, is also an activity that teachers should be implementing daily. Games and songs that provide a chance to practice listening and following directions can be helpful, with a good example being playing Simon Says with preschoolers. For all ages, it's important that teachers narrate what they are doing. Sometimes infant teachers can feel awkward talking to a baby when they can't necessarily respond back in English, but it's still critical that we do this type of work. So now finally, we are on to those secret senses I was mentioning before. The first one is proprioception, which sounds really fancy, but it just means that it's our sense that tells our brains where our body is without necessarily having to look. This sense helps us to balance and do such tasks as grabbing something off a table without knocking everything else down. Children need a lot of help with this one. The biggest example that I advocate for teachers adding to their class routines is heavy work. Giving children an opportunity to use their muscles for lifting, pushing, and pulling will help them to create an internal sense of where their body is in their environment. Activities like yoga and stretching also accomplish this. Even something as simple as trying different crunchy foods is an exercise in proprioception as children work their jaw muscles. For babies, this might look like tummy time with practice in pushing up from the floor. Next, we move on to interoception. This sense helps us to understand what our bodies need in order to reach equilibrium. For children, this is important to support so that they begin to understand their own body's cues and then feel able to communicate those things. Reminding children to check in with their body is a great way to advocate for this kind of development. If it's been a while, for example, teachers can ask students to check in with their body and see if it feels like they need to go to the bathroom. The same goes for if they're hungry or thirsty. Asking children where they feel a big emotion is another way to support that brain body connection. Even something as simple as breathing exercises together as a class can help bring awareness to everybody's body. And the last secret sense is our vestibular sensory system. This sense has to do with our inner ear and contributes to our coordination and regulation abilities. What this looks like in our learning environments is a lot of spinning, jumping, rocking back and forth, tumbling, somersaults, many of those things that we encounter daily during outside playground time. It's also a really great idea for teachers to facilitate daily dance parties in which children can contribute to a playlist of their favorite songs. So, now that you've heard a bit more detail about all eight of those senses, even the secret ones, hopefully you have a more full understanding of why helping children to develop these abilities in age appropriate ways is so important. Our sensory systems all work together to help us create meaning and perception of the world around us so that we can fearlessly take part in that world. And here are some of those scholarly journal articles I referenced in my work. Feel free to do any more research if you are interested in these things. And thank you so much for your time. I genuinely appreciate you listening to something that I care and am so passionate about. Thank you. Take care.